a sound beneath the morning, iron waking in the flame. Every strike became a summons, every spark declared your name. I had thought my heart was useless, been buried under all. Then the furnace breathed with mercy, and anvils rang beneath the coal. I thought the fire would only wound me, I felt the hammer mend my fall. But grace was shaping what was broken. Anvils rang beneath the coal. Anvils rang beneath the coal. Mercy forged me through it all. What was weak became a weapon. What was small began to stand tall. Every blow became a rhythm. Every spark became a song. God was making strength from surrender. Anvils rang beneath the coal. Anvils rang beneath the coal. I had feared the holy pressure, feared the heat I could not bear. But the hand that held the hammer never struck without care. Every scar became a pattern, every trial became a war, where the sound of heaven echoed. Anvils rang beneath the coal. Not by comfort, not by silence, not by ease my soul desired, but by purpose in the furnace. I was tempered in the fire. Anvils rang beneath the coal. Mercy forged me through it all. What was weak became a weapon. What was small began to stand tall. Every blow became a rhythm. Every spark became a song. God was making strength from surrender. Anvils rang beneath the coal. Shape my fear into courage, shape my grief into praise. Let the fire not destroy me, let it teach my heart your ways. If the hammer falls upon me, if the sparks around me grow, I will trust the master's purpose when anvils rang beneath the coal. Anvils rang beneath the coal. Mercy forged me through it all. What was weak became a weapon. What was small began to stand tall. Every blow became a rhythm. Every spark became a song. God was making strength from surrender. Anvils rang beneath the coal. Anvils rang beneath the coal. Mercy forged me through it all. What was weak became a weapon. What was small began to stand tall. Every blow became a rhythm. Every spark became a song. God was making strength from surrender. Anvils rang beneath the coal. Anvils rang beneath the coal. I entered bent and weary, but I left no longer small. For heaven forged my spirit when anvils rang beneath the call. Like an arrow in the quiver, held for wars not yet to be. I had dreamed of open battle, I had longed to fly like a river, but the archer knew the timing, while arrows rested in the quiver. I thought the waiting meant rejection, I thought delay had stolen purpose, but mercy held me close in patience, preparing flight beneath the surface. Arrows rested in the quiver, faith was quiet, sharp and still. Grace was shaping every season for the moment of His will. What was hidden was not wasted, what was waiting would deliver. God was aiming through the silence. Arrows rested in the quiver. Every day became a sharpening, every night became a prayer. Every stillness taught surrender, every delay proved He was there. I had feared the world forgot me, feared my calling would grow thinner, but the hand that formed my future kept the arrows in the quiver. Not by rushing, not by striving, not by forcing open doors, but by trusting holy timing. I was kept for something more. Arrows rested in the quiver, faith was quiet, sharp and still. Grace was shaping every season for the moment of His will. What was hidden was not wasted, what was waiting would deliver. God was aiming through the silence. Arrows rested in the quiver. Hold me till the hour, draw me when it's time. Let my life fly straight and faithful through the darkness and the climb. If I wait inside the shadow, if my purpose feels a whisper, teach my heart that You are working while arrows rest inside the quiver. Arrows rested in the quiver, faith was quiet, sharp and still. Grace was shaping every season for the moment of His will. What was hidden was not wasted, what was waiting would deliver. God was aiming through the silence. Arrows rested in the quiver. I waited in the silence, but I was never lost or bitter, for the archer held my story, while arrows rested in the quiver. had gathered, where the path was hard to find. Every step drew blood from sorrow, every branch reached for my mind. I had thought the road was over, I had feared the world would win. Then a breath of mercy moved there, and briars parted for the pilgrim. I thought the wounds would keep me captive, I thought the thorns would close the way, but grace went walking on before me and open passage through the pain. Briars parted for the pilgrim, mercy made a narrow road, hope appeared among the thickets, where my weary spirit slowed. What had trapped me lost its power, what had cut me grew dim. God was guiding through the brambles, briars parted for the pilgrim. Every thorn became a witness that the journey had a cost, but the shepherd never left me when the trail seemed fully lost. I had carried dust and questions, I had trembled at the rim, but the wilderness surrendered when briars parted for the pilgrim. Not by ease and not by comfort, not by roads already known, but by mercy through the rough place. I was led and not alone. Briars parted for the pilgrim, mercy made a narrow road, hope appeared among the thickets, where my weary spirit slowed. What had trapped me lost its power, what had cut me grew dim. God was guiding through the brambles, briars parted for the pilgrim. Open the path through my fear, open the way through my shame. Let the thorns that tried to hold me bow before your holy name. If the road is wrapped in shadow, if my strength feels worn and thin, I will follow where you lead me, where briars part for the pilgrim. Briars parted for the pilgrim, mercy made a narrow road, hope appeared among the thickets, where my weary spirit slowed. What had trapped me lost its power, what had cut me grew dim. God was guiding through the brambles, briars parted for the I walked where thorns had gathered, but I did not die within. For grace had made a passage, briars parted for the pilgrim. and the king stood clothed in gold. Every voice declared its power, every throne looked strong and old. But the morning brought a silence, and the idols lost their trust. When the glory of the Lord appeared, crowns sank into the dust. I thought the proud would stand forever, I thought the towers would not rust. The truth arose above the kingdoms, and crowns sank into the dust. Crowns sank into the dust. Pride fell beneath the just. Mercy lifted up the lowly. When the mighty lost their trust, what was built on empty glory could not stand before his touch. Every throne bowed down in silence. Crowns sank into the dust. I chased the praise of people, I'd wanted names and seats. I'd measured worth by honor, laid like garments at my feet. But the king who came in meekness showed a kingdom unlike us, where the humble rise in mercy and crowns sank into the dust. Not by status, not by silver, not by titles men defend, but by hearts bowed low in worship. True dominion has no end. Crowns sank into the dust. Pride fell beneath the just. Mercy lifted up the lowly. When the mighty lost their trust, what was built on empty glory could not stand before his touch. Every throne bowed down in silence. Crowns sank into the dust. Take the crown I made from striving, take the throne inside my chest. Teach my soul the road of servants, teach my heart the holy rest. Let my pride become surrender, let ambition lose its lust. For the only king forever makes crowns sink into the dust. Crowns sank into the dust. Pride fell beneath the just. Mercy lifted up the lowly. When the mighty lost their trust, what was built on empty glory could not stand before his touch. Every throne bowed down in silence. Crowns sank into the dust. Pride fell beneath the just. Mercy lifted up the lowly. When the mighty lost their trust, what was built on empty glory could not stand before his touch. Every throne bowed down in silence. Crowns sank into the dust. The halls were full of thunder, but the thunder turned to hush. For the Lord alone stood worthy, and crowns sank into the dust. I stood before the doorway with no key inside my hand. Every lock was cold and silent, every wall refused command. I had pushed with tired shoulders, I had prayed through desert sand. Then the hinges moved with mercy, doors open without ends. I thought the path was sealed forever, I thought the stone would always stand. But heaven breathed into the silence, and doors opened. His presence crystal clear. I tried to force the timing, tried to build what would not stand, but the answer came in stillness. Doors open without end. Not by power, not by striving, not by wisdom I possess, but by favor in the hidden place. The closed way open, blessed. Doors open without hands, grace made a way for me. Mercy moved the iron where my eyes could barely see. What no strength of mine could enter, what no plan of mine had planned. God stepped through the impossible, doors open without Open what I cannot open, move what I cannot move. Lead me past the walls of fear into the road of truth. If the gate stands high before me, if I do not understand, I will wait upon the Father till doors open without end. Doors open without hands, grace made a way for me. Mercy moved the iron where my eyes could barely see. What no strength of mine could enter, what no plan of mine had planned. God stepped through the impossible, doors open without hands. Doors open without hands. I stood before the doorway, but I did not force the plan, for the Lord had gone before me, and doors open without hands. Among the gardens where the stones were cold and gray, every name was carved in silence, every path was marked by clay. I had brought my grief like incense, I had bowed beneath the loom. Then a sound began to tremble, echoes rose from empty tombs. I thought the grave had spoken final, I thought the dark had sealed the rooms, but life had walked through death victorious, and echoes rose from empty tombs. Echoes rose from empty tombs. Morning broke through death's perfume. Grace stood bright where sorrow lingered. Hope came singing through the gloom. What was buried lost its power. What was ended started blooming. Heaven shouted resurrection. Echoes rose from empty tombs. Every stone became a witness, every shadow lost its claim, every sealed and silent chamber had to answer to his name. I have feared the deep standing, fear the night would be my room, but the Lord called life from silence. Echoes arose from empty tombs, not by dream and not by rumor, not by wishful songs of men, but by power everlasting. Death was forced to yield again. Echoes rose from empty tombs, morning broke through death's perfume. Grace stood bright where sorrowing lingered. Hope came singing through the gloom. What was buried lost its power. What was ended started blooming. Heaven shouted resurrection. Echoes rose from empty tombs. Roll the stone from every sorrow. Wake the places I call gone. Let the silence hear your promise. Let the grave receive the dawn. If I stand where hope was buried, if I weep beside the rooms, I will trust the risen Savior when echoes rise from empty tombs. Empty tombs. Echoes rose from empty tombs. Morning broke through death's perfume. Grace stood bright where sorrow lingered. Hope came singing through the gloom. What was buried lost its power. What was ended started blooming. Heaven shouted resurrection. Rose from empty tombs. Rose from empty tombs. I walked among the gardens, but I left beneath the bloom. For death had lost its anthem, and echoes rose from empty tombs. The road was dry and endless, and the sky was hard as brass. Every hill became a question, every hour slow to pass. I had no flame to warm me, no shelter from distress. Then mercy struck the hidden stone, and flint sparked in the wilderness. I thought the desert held no fire, I thought the night had left me breathless, but grace was buried in the rough place. Flint sparked in the wilderness. Flint sparked in the wilderness. Light rose from the stone. Mercy found the barren What was empty learned to bless. God lit hope in the hard place. Flint sparked in the wilderness. Strike the stone inside my sorrow. Wake the flame beneath my fear. Let the dark around my journey know that you are near. If the desert stretches longer, if my soul feels dispossessed, I will watch for holy fire where flint sparks in the wilderness. Flint sparks in the wilderness. Light rose from the stone. Mercy found the barren ground and won what felt alone. What was harsh became a lantern. What was empty learned to bless. God lit hope in the hard place. Flint sparked in the wilderness. The road was dry and endless, but the night could not suppress the flame the Lord awakened when flint sparked in the wilderness. The table stretched in laughter, but the wine had nearly gone. Every servant felt the silence, every joy was fading wrong. I'd seen the vessels empty, seen the worry in the least. Then the water blushed with wonder and goblets filled at the feast. I thought the celebration ended, I thought the lack would be released, but mercy moved through quiet vessels and goblets filled at the feast. Goblets filled at the feast. Grace became the wine. Mercy touched the ordinary and made the moment shine. What was feast. Grace became the wine, mercy touched the ordinary and made the moment shine. What was empty overflowed, what was common turned to peace. God revealed His hidden glory, goblets filled at the
stretched in laughter, and the best was not released until the Lord moved quietly, and goblets filled at the feast. Where the clouds began to roll, with a trembling prayer inside me and a battle in my soul. The valley mocked my weakness, the sky withheld its rain, and the silence split above me, and the hills replied again. I thought my cry had vanished, I thought no sound went under. Then heaven leaned across the heights, and hills answered with thunder. Hills answered with thunder. The mountain shook with praise. Power moved across the heavens and broke through all my haze. What was silent started roaring. What was distant drew me under. God was speaking from the high place. Hills answered with thunder. Every stone became a witness, every ridge became a flame. Every cloud that gathered over seemed to tremble at your name. I had whispered through the darkness, I had waited through the rain, but the Lord who hears the hidden, let His voice roll through the plain. Not by echoes made of fear, not by storms that steal and plunder, but by glory full of purpose. The hills answered with thunder. Hills answered with thunder. The mountain shook with praise. Power moved across the heavens and broke through all my haze. What was silent started roaring. What was distant drew me under. God was speaking from the high place. Hills answered with thunder. Shake the ground beneath my doubting, wake the courage in my chest. Let the storm become a sermon, let my weary spirit rest. If I stand beneath the mountain, if I feel my heart go under, I will listen for your answer when the hills reply with thunder. Hills answered with thunder. The mountain shook with praise. Power moved across the heavens and broke The towers rose in splendor, white as pride against the dawn. Every window caught the sunlight, every voice declared them strong. But below the streets were weary, and the poor were bent with pain. Then the Lord looked down with justice, and the proud began to change. I thought the height would hold forever, I thought the walls would never narrow. Then truth stepped in the morning, and ivory towers lost their shadow. Ivory towers lost their shadow. Mercy reached the lower street, grace stood with the forgotten, and lifted tired feet. What was high began to humble, what was cold began to follow. God revealed the weight of glory, ivory towers lost their shadow. I had trusted polished places, I had chased the shining name, thinking safety lived in status, thinking honor conquered shame. But the king who walked with servants chose the dust instead of gold, and the light that found the lowly made the proud towers look old. Not by beauty without kindness, not by power dressed in white, but by love that bends to rescue. The darkness lost its light. Ivory towers lost their shadow. Mercy reached the lower street, grace stood with the forgotten, and lifted tired feet. What was high began to humble, what was cold began to follow. God revealed the weight of glory, ivory towers lost their shadow. Bring me down from empty height, teach my heart the servant road. Let me leave the painted walls for the hands that carry loads. If my pride builds shining towers, if my soul grows hard and shallow, let your truth become the sunrise till ivory towers lose their shadow. Ivory towers lost their shadow. Mercy reached the lower street, grace stood with the forgotten, and lifted tired feet. What was high began to humble, what was cold began to follow. God revealed the weight of glory, ivory towers lost their shadow. The towers still stood gleaming, but their power turned hollow, for the Lord had crowned the humble, and ivory towers lost their shadow. The gates were carved with wisdom, and the elders took their seat. Every case was brought before them, every sorrow crossed their feet. But the cries became too heavy, and the scales began to shake. When the broken stood before them, judges wept beside the gates. I thought justice stood without feeling, I thought the law wore iron plates. Then mercy entered through the
the poor still stand and wait. Let your kingdom rise with mercy, till judges weep beside the gate. Judges weep beside the gate. Judges weep beside the gate. Judges wept beside the gates. Truth and mercy met the pain. Grace did not ignore the wounded. Justice did not speak in vain. What was hidden came to daylight. What was crooked lost its way. God was near the broken hearted. Judges wept beside the gate. The gates were carved with wisdom, but compassion sealed their fate. For the Lord had heard the wounded, and judges wept beside the gates. And the king demanded fear. Every voice bowed down around us. Every threat was drawing near. But our hearts had found a kingdom no flame could ever tire. So we stood beneath the sentence, and kinsmen walked through the fire. I thought the heat would be the ending. I thought the smoke would climb higher. Then one appeared among the faithful, and kinsmen walked through the fire. Kinsmen walked through the fire. Flames could not consume. Faith stood bright inside the furnace, like a garden in a tomb. What was meant to turn to ashes became witness and desire. God was present in the burning. Kinsmen walked through the fire. Every shame they embers, every accusation died. Every watching eye grew silent when the Lord stood at our side. We had not been saved from trial, but we were held within the fire. And the heat that meant destruction could not touch holy attire. Not by fear of earthly rulers, not by bending to the liar, but by trusting God Almighty. We walked onward through the fire. Kinsmen walked through the fire. Flames could not consume. Faith stood bright inside the furnace, like a garden in a tomb. What was meant to turn to ashes became witness and desire. God was present in the burning. Kinsmen walked through the fire. Stand with me inside the furnace. Hold me when the flames arise. Let the heat reveal your presence. Let the smoke unveil the skies. If the world demands surrender, if the trial climbs higher, I will trust the one beside me. When kinsmen walk through the fire. Kinsmen walked through the fire. Flames could not consume. Faith stood bright inside the furnace, like a garden in a tomb. What was meant
smoke was sleeping on the ground. Every dream I thought was living had been scattered all around. I walked slowly through the silence with no harvest left to claim. Then I saw a quiet wonder rising softly from the flame. I thought the fire had taken everything. I thought no beauty could remain. But mercy bloomed where grief had fallen, and lilies stood among the ashes. Lilies stood among the ashes. Grace grew where loss had been. Hope appeared in fragile wine where I thought the end had settled in. What was burned became a garden. What was broken learned to sing. God was breathing through the ruins. Lilies stood among the ashes. Every petal seemed impossible. Every stem defied the scar. Every root was like a promise, reaching deeper than the dark. I had named the ground forsaken. I had called the season done. But the Lord awakes the buried, brought a flower to the sun. Not by strength of soul or season, not by what my eyes could see, but by kindness in the wreckage, life returned quietly. Lilies stood among the ashes. Grace grew where loss had been. Hope appeared in fragile wine where I thought the end had settled in. What was burned became a garden. What was broken learned to sing. God was breathing through the ruins. Lilies stood among the ashes. Let the smoke become a memory. Let the sorrow lose its chain. Let the ground that held my weeping wear the color of your name. If the fire marks my story, if the ruins still surround, I will look for holy flowers rising from the wounded ground. Lilies stood among the ashes. Grace grew where loss had been. Hope appeared in fragile wine where I thought the end had settled in. What was burned became a garden. What was broken learned to sing. God was breathing through the ruins. Lilies stood among the ashes. The ashes. The field was gray with sorrow, but mercy had not passed, for beauty rose in silence, and lilies stood among the ashes. Polished every surface, trying hard to hide the stain. Every reflection told a story, built from pride and quiet pain. I had worn 1,000 faces, I had called the mask my proof. Then a light came through
Every fragment showed a weakness, every shard exposed a scar. But the Lord was not condemning what had wandered from his heart. I had feared the honest seeing, feared the wounds I could not smooth, but the hands that broke the mirrors were the hands that made me new. Not by image, not by beauty, not by names the world approves, but by light that speaks with mercy. The captive soul is moved. Mirrors broke before the truth. Grace revealed what love could heal. Mercy shattered every image that my fear had made me feel. What was false fell down in pieces. What was hidden lost its youth. God was freeing me from shadows. Mirrors broke before the truth. Break the glass of my pretending. Break the pride I learned to wear. Let the truth become a doorway. Let your mercy meet me there. If the pieces fall around me, if I stand exposed and bruised, I will trust the light that finds me. When mirrors break before the truth. Mirrors broke before the truth. Grace revealed what love could heal. Mercy shattered every image that my fear had made me feel. What was false fell down in pieces. What was hidden lost its youth. God was freeing me from shadows. Mirrors broke before the I had polished every surface, but my soul was still uncouth, till grace destroyed the illusion, and mirrors broke before the truth. The sea had spent its anger, the waves had bruised the night. Every hand was worn from rowing, every heart was pale with fright. We had fought the wind till morning, we had cried until we were warm. Then the voice of peace came walking, and oars rested after the storm. I thought the deep would keep on raging, I thought the dark would still transform, but mercy spoke above the waters, and oars rested after the storm. Oh, was wet with rain. Every plank remembered terror. Every breath remembered pain. But the Lord who rules the waters was not distant from our form. He had crossed the wildest darkness till all rested after the storm. Not by muscle, not by panic, not by strength our fear had sworn, but by one command from heaven, the broken sea was calm. All's rested after the storm. Peace came over the sea. Grace stood stronger than the thunder that had shaken all of me. What had tossed my fragile vessel lost its power to deform. God brought stillness to the waters. All's rested after the Teach my hands to stop their striving. Teach my heart to breathe again. Let me trust you in the stillness as I trusted in the rain. If the waves have left me weary, if my sails are bruised and torn, I will rest beneath your whisper when all's rest after the storm. All's rested after the storm. All's rested after the storm. Peace came over the sea. Grace stood stronger than the thunder that had shaken all of me. What had tossed my fragile vessel lost its power to deform. God brought stillness to the waters. All's rested after the storm. All's rested after the storm. The sea had spent its anger, but mercy kept us warm. Let me trust you in the stillness as I trusted in the rain. The courtyard held the morning with its pillars carved in gold. Every curtain moved like worship, every stone remembered old. I came in from the desert with a heart too dry and short. Then beauty hung like promise, pomegranates blushed in the cold. I thought the holy place was distant, I thought delight was not my sword, but grace adorned the house of mercy, and pomegranates blushed in the court. Pomegranates blushed in the court. Fruit of promise deep and bright, mercy dressed the sacred doorway with a harvest full of light. What was barren found a symbol, what was empty found support. God made beauty, God the threshold. Pomegranates blushed in the cold.
became a witness. Every color spoke of life. Every crimson curve reminded that abundance follows strife. I had known the taste of hunger, known the silence of the drought, but the Lord who fills his temple turned my thirsty heart about. Not by plain and empty pathways, not by cold and lifeless stone, but by signs of living promise. He made his kindness known. Pomegranates blushed in the court, fruit of promise deep and bright. Mercy dressed the sacred door with a harvest full of light. What was barren found a symbol, what was empty found support. God made beauty guard the threshold. Pomegranates blushed in the court. Let my worship bear its color, let my waiting bear its seed. Let the house of my surrender overflow with holy need. If I enter tired and thirsty, if my praise feels thin and short, let me see your hidden harvest where pomegranates blush in the court. Pomegranates blushed in the court, fruit of promise deep and bright. Mercy dressed the sacred door with a harvest full of light. What was barren found a symbol, what was empty found support. God made beauty guard the threshold. Pomegranates blushed in the pomegranates blushed in the court, fruit of promise deep and bright. Mercy dressed the sacred doorway with a harvest full of light. What was barren found a symbol, what was empty found support. God made beauty guard the threshold. Pomegranates blushed in the court. The courtyard held the morning, and my fear lost its report. For the Lord had planted beauty, pomegranates blushed in the court. Deep beneath the morning hillside, where the hidden stones were kept, hands were carving through the silence while the dust around them slept. Every strike became a rhythm, every shard began to glimmer, and the place no one had noticed sang beneath the holy hammer. I thought the cutting meant rejection, I thought the pressure made me smaller, but grace was shaping living stones, and quarries sang beneath the hammer. Quarries sang beneath the hammer, mercy carved where love would reign. of chisels, fear the pieces falling down. But the builder saw a temple where I only saw the ground. Every edge he made was purpose, every fracture had an answer. For the Lord was drawing beauty from the quarry and the hammer. Not by comfort, not by polish, not by standing proud and tall, but by yielding to the Maker. I was fitted in the wall. Quarries sank beneath the hammer. Mercy caught what love would raise. Grace was building through the breaking, stone by stone into His praise. What was buried became chosen. What was rough became a banner. God was forming sacred places. Quarries sank beneath the hammer. Shape me for your dwelling, set me where you will. Let the sound of holy pressure teach my restless heart be still. If the dust surrounds my calling, if the chisel feels like clamor, I will trust the hand that builds me. When quarries sang beneath the hammer.
Quarries sank beneath the hammer. Quarries sank beneath the hammer. Quarries sank beneath the hammer.
Quarries sang beneath the hammer. Mercy caught what love would raise. Grace was building through the breaking, stone by stone into His praise. What was buried became chosen. What was rough became a banner. God was forming sacred places. Quarries sang beneath the hammer.
Quarries sank beneath the hammer. Quarries sank beneath the hammer.
Deep beneath the morning hillside, I heard mercy answer. The temple rose from hidden stone, and quarries sang beneath the hammer.
Quarries sank beneath the hammer.
By the river's quiet turning, where the bruised reeds touch the stream, I had carried fragile places. I had lost the strength to dream. Every wind had tried to end me. Every storm had left its ache. But your gentleness surrounded me. And reeds bent but did not break. I thought the bruising meant the ending. I thought my weakness was a mistake. But mercy held the wounded stay. not by force that leaves a scar, but by patience full of healing. You remember where we are. Reeds bent but did not break. Grace was softer than the storm. Mercy covered every wound. You kept my trembling spirit warm. What was fragile stayed in keeping. What was bruised began to wake. God was near the faint and weary. Reeds bent but did not break. Hold the weak inside your kindness. Guard the flame that nearly dies. Let the wounded learn your nearness. Let the broken lift their eyes. If the wind returns tomorrow, if my heart begins to shake, I will trust the gentle Savior. When reeds bend but do not break. Reeds bent but did not break. Grace was softer than the storm. Mercy covered every wound and kept my trembling spirit warm. What was fragile stayed in keeping. What was bruised began to wake. God was near the faint and weary. Reeds bent but did not break. Reeds bent but did not break. By the river's quiet turning, morning touched the silver lake, and I stood because he held me. Reeds bent but did not break. The courts were filled with footsteps, and the lamps were burning low. Every prayer became a whisper. Every heart had come to know. Then a sound rose through the pillars, clear as rain and soft as flame. Silver rang inside the temple, calling worship by his name. I thought my offering was too little. I thought my song was far too simple. But mercy heard the smallest sound, and silver rang inside the temple. Silver rang inside the temple. Grace resounded through the stone. Mercy turned a humble offering into praise before the throne. What was quiet became holy. What was small became a signal. God received the heart surrender. to sorrow to the sky. I had watched the proud bring plenty, watched the lowly bring their tremble, but the Lord looked past the measure. When silver rang inside the temple, not by weight and not by number, not by gifts that men applaud, but by love within the giving. The heart is seen by God. Silver rang inside the temple, grace resounded through the stone. Mercy turned a humble offering into praise before the throne. What was quiet became holy, what was small became a signal. God received the heart surrendered, silver rang inside the temple. Take the little in my keeping, take the sound my hands can bring. Let it echo through your dwelling as an offering to the King. If my worship feels imperfect, if my voice begins to tremble, let my heart still rise in faith where silver rings inside the temple.
Silver ring inside the temple. Silver ring inside the temple.
Silver rang inside the temple, grace resounded through the stone. Mercy turned a humble offering into praise before the throne. What was quiet became holy, what was small became a signal. God received the heart surrendered, silver rang inside the temple. The courts were filled with footsteps, but one sound made my heart remember. The Lord was near the humble, silver rang inside the temple. The fields were gold at evening, and the sky was wide with flame. Every stalk stood full of harvest, every seed had learned your name. And then the wind moved through the valley, not to ruin, not to end, but to teach the grain surrender. And we bowed under the wind. I thought that bending meant defeat, I thought the storm had come to them, but mercy passed across the harvest, and we bowed under the wind. We bowed under the wind. Grace moved through the field. Mercy taught the heavy harvest how to bend and still be healed. What was far fields were gold at evening, and the day came to an end. But the harvest learned surrender, wheat bowed under the wind.